Everybody is in a low-level panic now all of the time about Trump falling asleep. Because then he gets mad. He essentially blames the people around him for the fact that he fell asleep. And you can see it, and they talk about seeing it. It starts to come on. And, you know, he kind of relaxes or the features change. He tilts, and then everybody knows the eyes are going to shut.
Michael.
Joanna, he said with slight skepticism.
I know, but it's me. Why are you skeptical? It's not an AI version of me.
It's that we've found ourselves in this position after all these years.
After all these years.
It seems kind of full of wonder.
Full of wonder. I wonder if most people know that I stalked you to get to know you, because I was a huge fan of your New York Magazine column about the media. It was so good. And I thought, who is this columnist, Michael Wolff, writing every week about all the people I wanted to read about?
This was 25 years ago.
It was 26 years ago.
26
I think it was 26 years ago, because I was the bureau chief for the Guardian newspaper, and I tracked you down, and 3 times you cancelled me for lunch.
You know, but I am, and I don't know why I have a precise memory of this. You were no longer at the Guardian. You had moved.
Had I just moved to the Times?
You had moved to the Times. Yes.
Okay. And we finally had lunch at Michael's, which was the media cafe at the time, still is, in Midtown Manhattan.
Still is, same people, they're just all 25 years older, literally the same people. They're now all out of work, however. You can look around that restaurant and you could say no one here has a job.
Well, you have a job. Your job is to go inside Trump's head with me every week, but you also have the same table number 5.
I do. It's been a long run.
A long run, and here we find ourselves. But the good news is we are employed, and we are very concerned about what's going on inside Trump's head. We're not together. You're in the studio. I'm in Abu Dhabi.
In my head, we're together all the time.
Oh, dear. Well, I'm here for a media conference, but I feel like I'm missing so much. I can't stand it. So I missed the president falling asleep on Monday, and then I missed the reversal on the video of the boat strike. So you need to fill me in.
But you didn't miss any of these things. You know as much about this as well, certainly as I do.
Okay, well,
we all know about this. This is in this long-running, day-by-day novella, the Trump novella. We all see it.
A novella would be short. This feels like War and Peace. It's 1,000 pages.
The novella series, the Mexican television series.
Oh, telenovela.
Yes, thank you.
Well, you omitted the word tele at the front.
It was grasping.
Okay, so.
Yeah, this is not a short story. This runs endlessly. We're in the 10th year.
Yeah, so we're in it feels like we're in season 24.
But it is different because in all those, I never remember Trump falling asleep. You know, and it used to be, he got bored and then he would get up and walk out. All of the time. Certainly in the first White House, 90 seconds, he was bored, he was out of the room. Everybody going, Well, now they're going, because he's asleep.
He's asleep, and then what we're really waiting for.
You can't wake him up. Also, the cameras are running. Everybody is in a low-level panic now all of the time about Trump falling asleep, because then he gets mad.
Is that what you're hearing?
Yes, and then he gets angry. He gets angry. He essentially blames the people around him for the fact that he fell asleep.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Well,
poor Marco Rubio was trying to talk louder, I think, to keep him awake.
No, and I think that's it. But there is no, you're on camera, so you can't jostle him. Hey, so nobody knows what to do. And you can see it, and they talk about seeing it. that it starts to come on. And he kind of relaxes, or the features change. He tilts, and then everybody knows the eyes are going to shut.
The eyes shut, and then he just jolts himself awake. Well, it's a bit like being on a plane when your head droops and suddenly you wake up again. And you saw poor Marco Rubio on Monday trying to deal with it, and then Trump coming too. Do you think this is a health issue, or is this just Trump? He's 79.
Well, we spoke last week about the sense among people around him that he may be losing interest, and
right,
and I think that is a thing. And almost it feels he's had this incredible year. Everything essentially has gone right for him. And I think now what we're starting to see is it's not really going right anymore, and it may be going kind of dramatically wrong. And I think he's losing interest in that. I mean, he likes success. He certainly doesn't like hard work.
Okay, so things are going a little wrong. I mean, we had. Well, where do we begin? Okay, let's begin with him saying, as he did with the Epstein files, that he was going to release the video of the boat in Venezuela that was struck. We thought perhaps twice, but now it sounds like it was actually struck 4 times, when there were very clearly survivors clutching to the wreckage.
Pathetic survivors, people half dead, half alive, yes. No. And he did this with that same kind of throwing it off, basic disregard that he did with the Epstein files. I mean, there was never a point in which he said, we are going to release the Epstein files. It was always somebody bringing this up, and he would go, yeah, sure. Sure. And the Kennedy files, and any files. And then when it came to it, suddenly he had these people who he had appointed to high positions, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, people whose reputations actually were involved with releasing the Epstein files, and they came into office and said, we're going to release the Epstein files. Remember, Pam Bondi had,
Yeah, she had them on her desk.
As though, which was always a Trump thing. Everybody, they get this. I've seen this before. They get, notebook looking things with blank pages. Yes, there they are. And suddenly Trump was like, what the fuck? How did this happen? And then he closed that down. We are never, ever releasing these Epstein files until they force us. And we still haven't seen the files, so who knows what's going to happen. But the Hegseth video, let's start to call it the Hegseth video.
Hegseth video, yep.
He kind of said, that was kind of like, well, will you release this? Somebody asked him, will you release it? And he was like, oh, yeah, sure. And then I think in the last couple of days, people have said, hey, they're going to force us. They're going to force this issue. They really want this release. Do you know what is on this? And then he went in interesting. He didn't say, yes, we'll release it. I mean, he could have sacrificed Hegseth at that point. Yes, we're going to release them, knowing that this was going to be the moment of doom for poor Pete, seeing these wretched people in the water being bombed to smithereens. Instead of sacrificing Pete, because he really doesn't like to sacrifice people. I mean, it really, he doesn't like anybody to force his hand. So instead he said, no, we're not releasing this. Or we're only going to release it if Pete wants to release it.
Right. I thought he shifted the responsibility onto Pete, which he did by saying, well, I wouldn't have bombed it twice. I would have just done it once. But
so far he's saving Pete. I mean, I don't think he's going to be able to save Pete. I think Pete is, so hopeless that he is, he's, he's unsalvageable.
Well, and I don't think that Trump wants to be blamed with war crimes, does he? I mean, there is something very serious behind this, that yes, there's the Hegseth and pushing our responsibility, but
I mean, of course there's something serious about it. There's people's lives. There's a whole way of the whole structure of world morality is essentially at issue here. But I think it's more important to him that he continue to appear to be strong, continue to not to bend to what the media wants him to do, not to be told what to do. I mean, he would certainly sacrifice world morality for that.
But he's not going to want to end up in The Hague. I mean, what's the logical extension of this? If America gets found guilty of war crimes,
no, there is nothing. Let's not even go there, because that's nowhere. And remember, the Supreme Court has let him off. Anything that he does in his official capacity, he has effective immunity for. He has a free pass.
But it undermines his case for the Nobel Peace Prize, even though he greedily accepted the FIFA Peace Prize this week.
I don't think, I mean, that's illogical to an extreme anyway. So I don't think that he is proceeding by logical thinking toward the Nobel Peace Prize. He's proceeding by Trump thinking. It's a fantasy. And I'm sure that he never really thought, that the world would come together and say he's a great peacemaker. What he has thought is, I will be able to pressure enough people, and I will have created a situation in which people will want to suck up to me enough that I will get the Nobel Peace Prize. Which is still not out of, it's not beyond. I mean, it seems to recede ever more every day, but I may be wrong on that. I mean, people do suck up to this guy.
Well, the Swedes and the Norwegians seem resolute not to give it to him. I mean, they were fairly severe in their comments about him.
Yes, well, they're Swedes and Norwegians.
Oh, yes, we are not going to give him the Peace Prize.
Yeah,
that sounds a little bit
like they're
Melania.
not going to give him. Let's not even debate this. He is not going to get the Nobel Peace Prize.
I know, but he got the FIFA Peace Prize, which came out of nowhere. They just invented it. And then he put his own medal round his neck.
One of the great corrupt organizations on earth. Yes.
And this is because America's hosting the World Cup this coming summer, so 2026. And so in some sort of strange way, they came over, invented a Peace Prize and gave it to him. And literally he put a medal. It was like a huge cartoon medal. And he put it on his
and he doesn't really care, because people get this mixed up. As a matter of fact, my 10-year-old daughter said Trump got the Peace Prize. I'm saying, what are you talking about? It's not possible. Right. She said, definitely, he got the Peace Prize.
So maybe people think he's got it, and he thinks he's got it. I know,
right? So, and he will start to claim this. Remember, this is like the cover, the fake cover of Time magazine.
Right. He's it's all merged in his head.
Yes, he will award himself the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, soon he will be saying that the FIFA Peace Prize is much more important than the Nobel Peace Prize.
Of course. It's a great prize. It's a tremendous prize. It's the peaciest of prizes. Does the Hegseth video get released?
Good question. I think it does.
It sounds very disturbing.
I think it does. But, the game Trump will play, the Trump game, is just to delay this. We delay this, other things will come up, people will be distracted. So if it is released, I think then Hegseth is going down. And that is certainly not going to be good for Trump. And one of the things that I wonder about, Trump goes around and saying all the time, because, again, he doesn't do details. He doesn't want to hear details. Don't tell him anything, because he can't listen. as we've discussed before, and he can't
the
really
war on information,
and he can't really comprehend. So what he does is say, and I've heard him say this on many occasions, and the people around him talk about this. He says, "Finish the job, finish the job." So you start to say, well, and then he interrupts you. Finish the job. So I think it's very possible that he said to Hegseth at some point, these guys, finish the job. And so Hegseth is repeatedly bombing everybody in these on these boats until they no longer exist. And he's saying to himself, the president told me to finish the job.
One thing I'm quite curious about is the Washington Post first ran with the story that Hegseth said something like, kill everybody. What I'm curious about is there doesn't seem to have been much follow-up reporting to that.
Yes, I don't know. And it may not have been kill everybody. It may have been finish the job.
Right. Well, Admiral Bradley says that Pete Hegseth didn't say that. And obviously we know that Pete Hegseth has got Admiral Bradley's back.
It's Pete Hegseth, I mean, the moronocracy. He certainly could have said kill everybody, and he may have jumped up and down with glee about this. But it is also possible that he did say finish the job, and it's just they're in this kind of loop.
It's the fog of war, Michael. It's the fog of war.
Yeah, it's the fog of Donald Trump. I mean, you don't really know what he wants. Donald Trump is not sitting down and explaining to you. He's not outlining policy. He's not outlining his beliefs. He's not outlining tactics or strategy. He's making pronouncements. Finish the job. We're the best. Imagine. So if we can defend Pete Hegseth for at least a few seconds, imagine working for Donald Trump.
When you're Secretary of War.
When you're doing anything, when any interaction you have to have with the man, you have to try. The thing is always to you have to infer, extrapolate, imagine actually what he's saying and what he wants.
Well, maybe Pete Hegseth will be relieved when it's all over. It must be very stressful.
Yeah, I'll say. I mean, I think it is incredibly stressful for all of them. I mean, we talked about Mike Johnson last week when he gave that interview, and he basically said, "I'm having a nervous breakdown." And then every Republican in Congress came out and said, "Oh my God, he is having a nervous breakdown because he's a moron along with all the other Trump morons."
Well, and he also said that he didn't feel like he was really Speaker of the House. He felt like he was a mental health counsellor.
Yes.
So they're all having breakdowns. Everybody's having a breakdown.
Right. So but understand this, and it's an important point, because Trump is at the center of this. Because you don't know what he wants. He's mercurial. He's threatening. He's it's all kind of Stockholm syndrome.
And he's aging. I mean, he is aging. He's falling asleep in cabinet meetings, which are being televised. So God knows what message he thinks that's sending. I mean, he's smart enough to understand this can't look good on television, or maybe he thinks it's great and it's just what people are talking about.
No, I mean, he clearly doesn't, and he's railing about this, and he's mad at people, but he's also in denial. I didn't fall asleep. I mean, that's what he's saying now. I didn't fall asleep. Well, your eyes were closed. And when I was doing my Murdoch biography, and I sat with Murdoch for many hours a week over the course of a year, and often I would be talking to him, and I would lose him. I mean, you didn't know what had happened. I mean, he would just be like frozen. And on many occasions, I thought, I have killed him. And then I would kind of gingerly say to people around him. I mean, Murdoch had this guy who was always his guy, this he was a PR guy, and he just kind of navigated around Murdoch constantly and attended to him. A guy by the name of Gary. And I would say, he seems to have, lost. I mean, I don't know what happened, Gary. And Gary would say, no, he's thinking deeply. He's really thinking. He concentrates very hard. So, and I think the people around Trump have to make those kinds of excuses because you can't say he fell asleep. And Trump is going to say, never admit to falling asleep either.
Well, it reminds me of that essay that Adam Gopnik wrote in The New Yorker about his shrink falling asleep. And he would go to see him and he was paying for him. And the shrink would just gently nod off. And then Adam would sit there for half an hour wondering what to do and then wondering whether or not to raise the fact with his shrink that he was falling asleep.
This is true we can be generous here. It's true for everyone. I'm watching a show with my wife at night, and she's clearly asleep. And I say, "Are you asleep?" And she says, "Absolutely not."
Okay, so we don't know whether or not the Hegseth video gets released. Donald Trump said he was going to release it. Now he says he's not going to release it, or he never said that he was going to release it.
This is going to be this is going to be like the Epstein files. I mean, if Congress, this will only be released if Congress insists on it, and they may. We're in this transitional moment of a Congress that has been abject in its willingness not to challenge Trump at any level, and now they are obviously that's changing.
Well, they're sorting out the budget for next year's Department of War, and they're saying that they will withhold 25% of the budget if they don't get to see the video. So there's clearly cross-party pressure on Hegseth to release it. As
we've discussed before, and I think we should come back to this again and again, everybody in Washington, 100%, certainly all Democrats, but 100% also of Republicans think Pete Hegseth is a joke, a fool, a joke, an embarrassment to anybody who is in office at this point in time.
Yeah, and I think I was telling you that I had dinner with someone who was formerly very senior in the military who said exactly the same thing, that they think he's an absolute moron.
This is not anything new. When he was at Fox News, people thought he was a moron. I mean, he is the low man wherever he is. He's not smart. He's not honest. He's not competent. And he's a drunk. So the package is really complete.
Well, and the other thing that's crazy is that he's actually the second most important man in America after the president. It's not J.D. Vance, because Pete Hegseth is in charge of the military.
Well, it always goes whether it's the Secretary of State or the Secretary of Defense, or as we now say, the Secretary of War. I can't believe I've never uttered those words. Yeah, no. I mean, it's not even forget. It's also one of the most profound and confounding management jobs on earth, to manage the Pentagon, the United States military. This is, you're not only managing a vast personnel base, possibly the largest personnel base in
government.
In not only government, in any business. There may not be any business that has more employees than the Department of Defense.
Amazon. Doesn't Amazon have more employees?
No, can't possibly. No. I don't. I say that with great authority, and I have no idea. But at any rate, it's a lot of people with guns, and then it's also then a business. I mean, a technology business that has to be managed at the same time. Anyway.
Well, and it's also a business that doesn't have official oversight by the press because Pete Hegseth has sent them all away. And of course, now the New York Times is suing them, suing Hegseth and the Department of War, saying that they're infringing on the First Amendment for the New York Times to actually write about what's going on there. I mean, it's not stopping people from writing about it. I mean, interestingly, since they've kept the press away, we've had the story come out in the Washington Post that Hegseth was behind bombing the boats as many times as they needed to.
Let's make a little book on this. How long do we think Hegseth lasts?
I think he lasts till the new year.
Till the new year, okay.
I think they release the video and he has to go, and I think that will take some time, but I bet he doesn't go until the new year.
Great. Okay.
You think he goes before
No.
Christmas?
No. I mean, the new year is frighteningly almost upon us. So, no. And as I say, the Trump thing is delay. And, it's a very, the theory is, which people around Trump actually, I don't know if Trump has articulated this, I doubt he has, but people around him say very reasonably, all kinds of things happen. The longer you push something out, the greater the chance is that something will happen to change the discussion, change everything. It's like sometimes I'll agree to, do something I don't want to do, for months out, thinking, I could be dead by then. And I think that that's a lot of what goes on in Trump's head and in the people around Trump thinking, how are we going to ever survive this?
So, Michael, Marjorie Taylor Greene did an interview with 60 Minutes on Sunday, which was going out at the same time as Donald Trump was attending the Trump Kennedy Center honors. He then sort of went berserk at Paramount, saying, you're just as bad as the last lot. CBS is terrible. This is not what I expected, kind of thing. And of course, it's significant because Paramount threw in a hostile bid for Warner Brothers. Right.
Well, let's unpack a few things here. But before we even go there, he has this 60 Minutes fixation. I mean, nobody has watched 60 Minutes in years. But his fixation with 60 Minutes is like his fixation like Time Magazine. Right. I mean, Time Magazine wants an interview, everything stops in the White House. Time Magazine doesn't even really exist anymore. It's just a kind of a memory. It doesn't make any difference. And like 60 Minutes, Trump is, and it's important constantly to remember this, that Trump is a guy lost in the past, which is a curiosity since he is so much the guy who defines the present. But that's a weird mix-up which history is going to have to unravel. But anyway, yes.
And he has his own Truth Social platform, his social media platform, where he goes berserk at 2 a.m, firing off insane missives to people, the latest being to the Supreme Court. But let's come back to that, but let's first unpack the Warner Brothers, Paramount, Netflix conflicting offers.
Right. So out of this 60 Minutes thing, and then he went crazy about that, and then therefore crazy about the Paramount. 60 Minutes is a show on CBS. CBS is owned by Paramount, which was recently sold in a seminal deal to a company called
Skydance.
I was going to say Sky Horse, but that's another.
That's the publisher of
Melania.
Robert Kennedy,
yes.
right? Melania book and Robert F. Kennedy's books, because no one else will publish his books.
It was sold to the Ellison family. So Larry Ellison is the second richest man in the world, something like that.
And the founder of Oracle Computers.
Yes, 200 million, 300 million, a billion. What, million?
Yeah, billion.
Yeah. And his son, this is just, you just can't make this stuff up. So he gave his son an entertainment company you need a job. Why don't you buy CBS? It's a a television network. And they own a movie studio. You'll be in the movies. What kid doesn't want to be? So that deal happened, and that deal happened partly because it had the favor of the Trump administration. It had the favor of the Trump administration partly or wholly because Larry Ellison has been a dedicated contributor to Donald Trump and a loyal supporter. So they did that deal, and then they made a overture to buy Warner Discovery. So that's Warner Brothers, HBO, CNN,
all the Discovery channels.
all of the Discovery channels, although no one knows what they are. And
Food Network and HGTV.
Thank you.
And I think OWN, which is Oprah's channel, right?
Yeah, it may be. It's an irrelevant part, and it's an irrelevancy in this deal, however.
Well, it's a cable business, which Netflix doesn't want.
Yeah, okay, so at any rate, the overture from the Ellison family put Warner's into play. Mm-hmm. Then Warner said, okay, if you want to buy us, if somebody wants to buy us, we're for sale at the right price. For the highest price. So a lot of companies then were interested in this, including Comcast, the Ellisons, Netflix. I think maybe there was another bidder, but anyway, and they went through this process, and Netflix won. They won for the simple reason that they bid more money than anybody else. But the Ellisons have their position has been, no, we should have won because we know Donald Trump, essentially. You're not going to be able, Netflix, you're not going to be able to get your merger approved. But we can get our merger approved because we know Donald Trump.
I did. I met with Ted. I think he's fantastic. I think he's, in the history of Hollywood, has really been almost, you could say, nothing like what he's done. You'd go back to Louis B. Mayer, maybe, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM. He came up. He was in the Oval Office last week. I have a lot of respect for him. He's a great person. But he's done one of the greatest jobs in the history of movies and other things. He's got a lot of interesting things happening aside from what you're talking about. But it is a big market share. There's no question about it. It could be a problem.
Between the Ellisons and Paramount and Netflix, nobody should do this deal. I mean, that these are both preposterous combinations against the law. They are both. All of these companies are in the same industry. They are competitors. When one buys the other, that becomes anti-competitive. That's a monopoly. That's against the law. But I suppose pay no mind to that. That's not the issue. The issue is, well, A, who's going to pay more, and B, possibly, and this would be a really decidedly new wrinkle in the mergers and acquisitions business, who Donald Trump likes more. So at any rate, Netflix was Warner's agreed to be sold to Netflix because they bid the highest amount of money. But the Ellison family has now made a hostile bid. They've basically said, no. We are. They have 2 points. We've raised our price and we're actually paying more money. That's unclear, but that's what they're maintaining. But more importantly, the Netflix people are never going to be able to get this deal done, and we can get it done because Donald Trump likes us. So they've gone directly to the shareholders. So the shareholders at this point, the shareholders in Warner's, just want a deal. The last thing that they want to be left with is Warner's. And that happens just because in this arbitrage thing, a lot of the shareholders, it gets to a high price and then they cash out, and then the people who get in are just the arbitrageurs, basically. And so they need a deal and will do anything to force a deal. They don't really care. They just want the highest price, the highest price and the deal that can get done.
And of course, one of the other people that the Ellisons have brought into this deal that they're putting together.
I totally forgot about this. This is here's the headline. Do it.
That's also a wrinkle. Well, I mean, who else but affinity partners? Jared Kushner's venture capital company, and of course, lots of money from the Middle East.
It's totally so. Basically, I mean, not only are the Ellisons taking the position that we support Donald Trump, therefore he's going to support us, but we're going to go and support his son-in-law.
Right.
And his son-in-law will bring this home.
I mean, this is such an extraordinary moment in American business. I mean, I can't tell. We've talked a lot about the grift. The grift has been written about endlessly. We know that Jared raised $2 billion from the Saudi sovereign fund for his affinity partners. This seems a level of conflict of interest above anything I can think of.
Well, let's think. I mean, it seems to me there's conflict of interest almost in anything that Donald Trump touches. But then let's segue back to this 60 Minutes wrinkle, because the problem with dealing with Donald Trump, even in an open, straightforward grift. We're going to support you with any kind of money that you need, and we're going to bring your son-in-law in and make him even richer than he already is, and the wealth is just going to flow to you. Even then, you can't depend on Donald Trump.
Right. So well, and I mean, it's just crazy that Marjorie Taylor Greene, or Marjorie Traitor Greene, as he calls her, would go on 60 Minutes and trash him in a meaningful way, actually, saying that she's had death rates, she's had a pipe bomb threat at her home, that her children are frightened. Can you imagine having been the journalist with that booking, and think this is going to blow everything up? Trump is going to be furious. He thinks he's got CBS tamed, his friends own it, and somehow they've sneaked in Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, it's quite a feat.
I just wanted to add that what I can't imagine is having Marjorie Taylor Greene as your mother. But put that aside.
Let's put that aside. It's not her children's fault.
Totally. It's, the whole Trump thing is, I mean, it is not just the grift. It is dominance. I must dominate. It must be, you can't cross me in any possible way. So even if the Ellisons are going to pay him and his son-in-law and everybody else around him, the fact that 60 Minutes would devote any time to one of his enemies means, let's blow up the deal. At least the guy with the grift, you could say, well, there's a level of rationality there. You want the money.
Right.
You can't even say that here.
Well, also, the other interesting thing is that, at least my understanding of the deal is that Netflix wants to buy the studio and the streaming business, but it doesn't want the cable channels. Paramount is offering to take the entirety of Warner Brothers. So you also then get CNN. And there's been all sorts of rumors that Trump hates CNN because they've been critical of him. So he wants CNN to go full MAGA, which will be another incentive for him to support the Paramount deal.
Yeah, no, you would think that in Trumpian terms, this is what he wants. Now, which doesn't mean, because actually there are actual business issues here. that he will get this. I mean, the shareholders, in the end, the shareholders of Warner Discovery are going to have to decide, and shareholders are pretty exclusively prone to taking the highest bid. And it would appear that the Netflix bid, which may well go up, is still by substantially ahead of the Paramount bid. So the Paramount bid is kind of saying, we can actually wink, wink, pay less because Donald Trump is our friend. But who knows? At any rate, we should also finish this out by saying neither of these companies should get this deal, that this is going to be disastrous probably disastrous for these companies as most media mergers are, but also just disastrous for Hollywood, the creative community, for the audiences who are just going to see, when there is only one company at the center of things, the product gets lazy, homogenous, crap.
Well, the other thing I wanted to ask you about was, where is the TikTok deal? Because Larry Ellison of Oracle is supposed to be, he and Trump have also, in theory, organized the TikTok deal between themselves.
Totally. I don't know the answer to this, and because it's just one of those things that we should know the answer to, but it just gets events supersede it. The TikTok deal is another bit of absolute incomprehensible egregiousness and a fundamental violation of whatever capitalism is supposed to be. It's this other thing, state-supported capitalism, which is not capitalism. Trump basically took over TikTok. And then has divvied it out to his friends, including Larry Ellison, including Rupert Murdoch.
Right. Okay. So we should find out for our next Inside Trump's Head. So did you watch any of the clips of Donald Trump at the Trump Kennedy Center, as he's now jokingly calling it?
No, Jesus Christ. That's one of those other thing. Let's take over this. So you have a cultural institution in Washington, D.C., which has a relationship to the government, but has its own board of directors, its own governance. But nevertheless, Trump came in, took it over, threw everybody out, put his lackeys and factotums into the populated the board with that.
I think his former German ambassador, Rick Grenell.
Rick Grenell is gay, and that's what Trump said. We need a gay guy who's running it's show business. We need a gay guy.
Is that what he said?
Yes, yeah, totally. So anyway, So he took over the Kennedy Center, which means that almost every professional involved with the Kennedy Center has run in the opposite direction. The audience has run in the opposite direction.
Correct.
The entire institution has been fundamentally denuded, and leaving only Donald Trump on the stage, which is what has happened. Donald Trump in the recent Kennedy's. What is that thing?
Honors, the Kennedy Center
Kennedy honors. Donald Trump was the MC, his dream job.
Well, and he actually said at the end of MCing, and we should talk about him, talking about Michael Crawford, because Michael Crawford inaugurated the role of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera, which turns out to be Donald Trump's favorite musical, and it is a very powerful musical, and people have loved it for years, and it ran and ran and ran in the West End and on Broadway. So,
have you ever seen it?
Do you know the awful thing is, I can't remember.
No, of course you haven't. It's terrible.
It.
It's terrible. Anyway.
Is it terrible?
Oh, of course it is. It's Trumpian.
I actually can't remember if I've seen it or not.
Anyway.
All right, it's Trumpian pablum, but my point is a lot of people like it, right? So he gave the award to Michael Crawford, the British guy who inaugurated the role. But just the way he was talking about Michael Crawford and his voice is fabulous, and he's got this great voice. It was just on and on. It was just, this is not what the Kennedy honors were supposed to be. They were supposed to be this serious moment in American cultural life. And once again, Donald Trump has sort of trashed it. And also then at the end, he said, people have been saying that perhaps I should get a Kennedy honor, but I think I'll nominate myself. And you're like, oh my God, just for once, make it not about you.
Yeah, no, the Kennedy Center Peace Prize, perhaps.
The Kennedy Center, the Trump Kennedy Center Peace Prize. He'll just have so many peace prizes that, of course,
it's
just crazy. He'll award himself a medal
Yes.
and pin it on himself. So actually, Melania accompanied Donald Trump to the Kennedy Center Honors, and we've seen a bit more of her this week. And if you haven't seen it, I want to encourage everybody to watch the video of Melania reading a book about Santa to children. And the book is called How Does Santa Go Down the Chimney? And I literally thought I was switching on to a spoof at first, because she goes, does he wear night goggles? Does he wear night vision goggles or heat vision goggles? And I was thinking, this is a spoof on Pete Hegseth, right? But no, not at all. And it's called How Does Santa Go Down the Chimney? I mean, it was just the most bizarre reading of a Christmas book I've ever heard.
Maybe you could do it. How the fuck does Santa go down the chimney?
Yeah. How the fuck does Santa go down the chimney? I can't quite get her accent today. A few people have been commenting on my accent. By the way, we got lots of comments on your slight dismissal of the people in the boats as drug dealers. They're just drug mules. And a lot of people made the point that we have no idea who these people are. We have no idea.
In my defense, I said purported drug couriers. We don't know who they are, but that's what that's what they are. That's what the government, our government, purports them to be.
Yeah. They do purport them to be that, even though they're not coming anywhere near us, and it would take them 20 oil changes to get here.
I want credit for the way I accented purported.
Okay, so Michael, it's time for me to leave. I'm going to go out on the town in Abu Dhabi. We'll be back on Thursday, where we can discuss your progress in getting our First Lady under oath, because I know you have lots of questions for her. So just reminding people to send in questions for Michael's suit against the First Lady.
Yes, fantastic. And I appreciate them. And I am actually told that I am getting the first draft of the list of people who will be subpoenaed today. So I hope to have to be able to report on that very soon.
Well, and have you put that list together? These are people that your lawyers say you want to talk to first.
Yes, we have been we have been all conferring with this with several researchers on this. So, but you can add anyone in terms of asking Melania. It doesn't just have to be Melania. You can ask anyone you can propose anyone you think we should subpoena and who might be able to answer relevant questions about Melania.
About Melania,
and her
okay.
husband.
Are you allowed to subpoena other members of her family?
We can subpoena, I believe, anyone who might have relevant information.
It would be interesting to subpoena Marla Maples on when she understood Donald Trump and Melania first met.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there.
Sounds like a good idea.
Anyway, if you have been, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to leave us a comment and subscribe.
You go to bed in Abu Dhabi.
And most importantly, don't forget to be beast.
The Be Beast members: Sandra Clark, Methinks, Travels with Carl, Andrew Beaver, Capinator, Harry Clark, Dawn McCarthy, Daniel Doglover, M. Griner, Fulvia Orlando, Herbie, Andrew Mellor, Laz Conde, Bonzo, Val Love Francesco, Andrea Hodel, Bocock DC, Sharon Shipley, Connie Rutherford, Karen White, Heidi Riley, Devin, Anna, and Jesse.